This video is about the famous playwright and actor William Shakespeare and the details that happened during his lifetime. This video will be broken down into 3 parts, starting with Part 1, Important Events. Some important moments in William Shakespeare's life includes his birth, childhood, his marriage and children, theater life, and his final years. Starting with his birth, Shakespeare was more than likely born on April 23, 1564, to his parents John and Mary Shakespeare, who had 2 girls prior to himself, but both died before reaching infancy, leaving William to be the oldest out of 5 siblings. Childhood. In childhood, William's father, John, made a living as a leather worker, mostly for gloves and similar products. Eventually, John became an alderman, which didn't last long since John eventually backs away from public view. And since William was the son of an important man in Stratford society, he more than likely attended Stratford Grammar School, which mostly taught the traditional Latin styles of playwriting, acting, and memorization, and most likely attended until the age of 15. Marriage and children. After getting out of Stratford, William married in 1582 at the age of 18 to Anne Hathaway, who was already pregnant at the time with a baby girl named Susanna. After Anne married William, she moved to Stratford and spent the rest of her life there. In 1585, both William and Anne had twins, 1 girl and 1 boy, named Judith and Hamnet. As the years went by, Anne and the children had to live in Stratford, while Shakespeare had to work in London to pursue his career in theater. Some speculate that William and Anne were having problems within their marriage, but it couldn't be possible to know for sure, since almost anyone during this time had to work in London if they were pursuing a career in theater. The family line eventually comes to an end, leaving no direct descendants of William. Theater life. Nothing is known for sure when it comes to what William was doing before or how he got started in theater. No one knows for certain how he earned a living or when he moved to Stratford, but after this large gap in William's life, the first mention of him is in 1592 as an official playwright and actor. In 1593, William publishes a poem called Venus and Adonis. Over the years, William becomes more famous and becomes a regular selling point on later titles. Final years. William made a very good living from his relationship with the Lord Chamberlain's men and from his writing and acting career. He invested a great deal of his wealth in real estate, purchasing the second largest house in town. It is estimated that William's death was on April 23, 1616. His cause of death is unknown, but it is theorized that it could be by infectious disease, since his brother died a week earlier. The memorial built in his honor resides at the Holy Trinity Church in Stratford and is said to be one of the 2 accurate depictions of him because those who knew him approved of it. Part 2. Conditions Shakespeare lived in. During William Shakespeare's life, there were many things happening during the time, such as women's rights, censorship of speech/expression, etc. The rights of women. In William's time, women had very limited rights in England. Although there was a queen in England's history who ruled for 4 decades, most of the women during this time had very little power, especially when it comes to dictating their own lives. Most papers and articles written about family life were all a reflection of the patriarchal norm of domination and submission. The average home was expected to be led by the father/male head of the family. Women were denied proper education and the opportunity to hold office. However, single women could own land, make a will, and sign contracts without a male guardian. Unfortunately, these rights would have been taken away once a woman was married. Religious tensions. During this time, there was a reformation of Europe, and Queen Elizabeth looked to stabilize the country by working with the Protestants and Catholics. Tensions continued to rise, and massacres were happening on both sides of the Catholic and Protestant religious groups. Also during this time, King James began enforcing religious policies as he advanced to the throne in 1603. While he was ruling Scotland in the 1500s, he began to see himself as holy and felt that he had a lot of knowledge when it came to the evils of the world. In 1597, he publishes a book about demonology, which was an account of the evil that threatened his rule. Censorship. During this time, in order to have a play presented in the public, writers had to send their works into the censor for approval. Queen Elizabeth wanted to put out a proposal that all pieces must be reviewed before being performed. In this proposal, she directly denied any pieces that contained any religious/political subjects or satire towards the royals who ruled during the time. Part 3. People's Thoughts on Shakespeare While He Was Alive. There is not much historical evidence left from Shakespeare's time period that shows what people thought of him and his work. However, in his early stages as a playwright, notes from manuscripts that were written during his plays show that many people did not enjoy his work as much as other famous writers, such as Christopher Marlowe. Yet in the 17th century, 80 years after the play Hamlet was performed, people began to frequently quote the famous line, "to be or not to be." Abraham Wright's feedback on the play Hamlet during the 17th century was that it was mediocre and average. Wright even claimed Shakespeare's gravedigger scene did not live up to the gravedigger scene in the play Jealous Lovers by playwright Thomas Randolph. However, Wright did like Shakespeare's play Othello, which he said was a very good play. Scholarly writer Gabriel Harvey commented on Shakespeare's writing, saying, "The younger sort take much delight in Shakespeare's Venus and Adonis, but his Lucrece and his tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, have it in them to please the wiser sort." Francis Myers, an English writer during the 16th century, saw Shakespeare as the best writer for comedies and tragedies. Ben Jonson also agreed that Shakespeare was amazing at writing comedies. However, he criticized Shakespeare's use of classical languages and rules, thus making his writing average. Ben Jonson also claimed that Shakespeare was too dramatic with the history he portrayed in his writings. Ultimately, Shakespeare was well known by early readers for his poems like The Rape of Lucrece and Sonnet, and they did not see him as a distinguished playwright until later on.